Hey Prophet,
Hey Nico,
how are you?
pretty good. How about yourself?
Great. Today we do a little call to explain the story of the MetaDAO up to this day. So we have a few points to go over. I will mainly let you talk.
Cool. So should I go ahead?
Yeah, you can start with your backstory and then explain what's futarchy and go over all the points I've sent you.
Sure. Yeah. So I go by Profit. Before I was Profit, I worked in Web2 as a software engineer, and I worked in Ethereum DeFi for a while. Um, and in kind of all of those experiences, both in Web2 and in Ethereum DeFi, was just pretty disappointed with the way that the organization worked. Like it felt like there were always decisions that were being made in the interest of the people that were making the decisions that were not good for the organization as a whole, like managers in Web2 doing things that make themselves look good, but that aren't good for the company. And it's even worse in DeFi DAOs. And so, yeah, that's my backstory was frustrated with this problem. Like that's who I was frustrated with this problem as an engineer, as an individual contributor to these organizations. And then I discovered futarchy. And futarchy is an idea that was invented by an economist named Robin Hanson 24 years ago now at this point. It was invented in 2000. And the idea is to have markets govern decisions instead of having people govern decisions like committees or individual people like individual dictators. And this, as someone who is a market nerd enough to end up in DeFi, this was like a really exciting idea. And no one had done it before. There were a few projects that said they were going to do it. Gnosis actually on ETH said that they were going to do it. There's another project on Polkadot called Zeitgeist that said they were going to do it. But no one had constructed a full futarchy, even though you had Vitalik Buterin write about futarchy and how it could work, and Ralph Merkle, as in Merkle Trees, talk about futarchy and how it worked. No one had yet done it. And so I was like, holy shit, like, this is what I need to do because I see this huge problem. And if you have a market governed decisions, markets are pretty good at doing stuff, at making decisions essentially, or aggregating information. So, like for example, if you look at presidential prediction markets versus polls, the prediction markets are better at predicting who's going to be president than the professional pollsters or like the political scientists. When you they've done also like Google and HP have run internal prediction markets to predict like well, HP used it to predict printer sales, and then Google used it for various things like predicting when an office is going to open. And they found that those prediction markets were more accurate than their previous expert forecasts. And then also, the example that I really love is in 1980, the Challenger space shuttle blew up in the US, and it took the government 4 months to pinpoint Morton Thiokol as the cause of the crash. It was Morton Thiokol's O-rings that caused the space shuttle to blow up, but the market had identified it as Morton Thiokol within 14 minutes. Within 14 minutes, Morton Thiokol's share price had gone down way below, was trading much below the other government contractors involved in the project. And so I love markets, and markets are better, and they also are not easy to manipulate. And so you don't have this problem where like someone is abusing their power because you can't like a market. It doesn't really work the same way. Um, and so I started working on futarchy, and I at the time I was this was pre-profit. I uh, I decided, okay, if I want to do this, I should do it anon because I've seen in the Ethereum space how Vitalik is still this locus of control, and I really liked the Satoshi model of going anon, so that you could just disappear and everything work out okay. And so that was my goal, is to build a futarchy, and then eventually, once it worked without me, just disappear, and have it continue to work. And since I was going anon, I was like, I should just build on the best chain out there. And I believed at the time that that was Solana. And so that's what I decided to do. And so the MetaDAO white paper was published on November 10th, 2022, which is actually 2 days after FTX halted withdrawals, which I knew on the ground that FTX was basically not as systemic as people thought, and that Solana was going to survive. And so I started coding it. And it took me a really long time to code it, because, I mean, partially because there was a lot of work to be done. Like, for example, we had to build TWAP oracles. That's something that exists on ETH. Like, you have Uniswap V2 and V3. They both provide time-weighted average price oracles, but which you need for a futarchy, right? I can So with a futarchy, essentially how it works is for every decision you make, you you create two markets. One is like the market in the token if this proposal passes, and one is the market in the token if this proposal fails. And you look at both of the prices in those markets, and you pass the proposal if and only if the price in the pass market is higher than the price in the fail market. So essentially, if the market values the token higher, if you do the thing. So, like, for example, maybe you have a DAO that has a head chef, and you want to fire the head chef. Someone could create a proposal to fire the head chef, like to, I don't know, sever their compensation on chain. And then people would trade on the value of, yeah, let's just say Sushi DAO. They would trade on sushi tokens if the head chef was fired and if he wasn't. And if sushi tokens were priced higher, if he was fired, then he would be fired. And so you need on-chain market prices in order to do that. Like, you need to be able to get prices in these markets, which is easy on ETH because you've got Uniswap in V2 and V3 that provide these time-weighted average price oracles, but Solana didn't have any time-weighted average price oracles on chain. And so I had to build those, and ended up building an order book. And then the order book model, the exact order book that I built didn't end up working for some technical reasons. And so we ended up building on top of OpenBook V2. Yeah, all that is to say is it took a long time. And building alone was not fun. I learned that. But finally, the main problem was actually not the building the thing, but it was getting enough attention, because I wanted to launch the futarchy, the MetaDAO, as decentralized from day zero. And in order to do that, you need to have the tokens pretty widely distributed. And you need to have people willing to trade those tokens. And so I couldn't just like launch a futarchy with all the tokens owned by me. That doesn't make any sense. And so what I had to do for that whole year was just trying to get people, like, starting from, it was like my bank account balance, my social credit balance started at zero, and I had to, like, through blog posts, through tweets, just mine engagement to get people interested in this. And that was finally done in October 2023, so almost a year after. And so it was then we announced the launch, and then we finally launched in November 2023. The way that we launched was we told everyone that there was going to be an auction for the meta tokens, which is the native token of the MetaDAO. And anyone who wanted to participate in this auction or anyone who's interested would join our Discord. And then on the day that there was going to be an auction where we had people like in the Discord, like there was one guy who I remember was like, I don't want to. He didn't want to go to the bathroom because he wanted to. He didn't want to miss the launch, the auction. Uh, but what we actually did was an airdrop. We said that anyone who is in the Discord prior to this moment will be receiving an airdrop. And what that kind of worked because it self-selected for the people who are actually interested in the project as opposed to just your typical airdrop farmers. We actually had, after we announced, we had uh, so many people flood into the Discord. The way we actually, I needed to collect Solana addresses of all the people who were going to receive the airdrop, and so I sent out a Google sheet. Um, the Google sheet got 150,000 responses. 150,000 responses. It was botted by my estimate at least 5 bots because you could tell from the way that they botted was different. At least because some of them may have botted in the same way. So that was not fun sorting through that, but we did, and so we got everyone their initial allocation, which was pretty evenly spread out. And then, yeah, the MetaDAO was live. The MetaDAO was decentralized, like from day zero. That anyone could create a proposal, and there was no like council or anything. There's no MetaDAO labs. There's no MetaDAO Foundation. There's just well, at the time there was just a treasury with 10,000 USDC that I'd put in there, and then the meta tokens were widely distributed. And I didn't have ownership over the Discord. Someone else was the owner of the Discord. Um, and so it felt pretty, I mean, it felt decentralized from day zero. Uh, but, well, yeah, so we had our first proposal, which is like during the process of launching, I was thinking about, okay, what could be the first thing that the MetaDAO builds, right? Because a governance process is useless without anything to govern. And so we need to build some stuff. We need to build some economically important stuff. And one idea that Durden had of Lifinity was to build an LST vote market for Marinade. So the way that Marinade Finance works is it's a liquid staking token where 40% of its stake is directed by collectively the MNDE and MSO holders. So the MNDE and MSO holders can vote for which validators they think should receive extra stake. And then, yeah, 40% of Marinade's total stake gets directed to those people who receive the votes. And today, that process happens largely like behind the scenes, like via Telegram chats between whales and people who are vote buyers. And so the idea was essentially to create this central market such that anyone could trade their votes for money from validators because validators want extra stake, right? Because they have their commissions, so they have a real economic incentive to pay for votes, and it would also give Marinade and EMSA holders an extra APR. And so we created that proposal. And the main problem was the UI that I had created. I've never been a UI engineer, and the UI that I created sucked. It was terrible. And so what actually ended up happening was Dode Cahodrix, or Cahedrox, I don't know how he prefers it pronounced, but Dode, I call him, created a UI completely separate from my own at no one's request. Just like took the initiative and built another UI, and then this other guy, 0x Nalik, ended up working with him and getting the UI to look pretty slick and working. And so we all ended up using that UI, and we disbanded my crappy looking UI, and that was great. And And so, yeah, and then after that we had so the first proposal was 10 days long, and like an idiot I had hard coded that into the smart contract. I hard coded every proposal must be 10 days long, uh, and so what I ended up doing was creating a new contract that allows you to configure it, and change the default down to 5 days. And so the second proposal was to migrate all of the funds in the DAO to the new DAO program. Um, and then the proposal after that was to, well, actually, yeah. So the backstory here is Marinade actually ended up working. They ended up building internal something that was kind of competing with what we were thinking about building. And so we decided, you know what, it's going to be impossible to compete. Like, we want to support them. It's not going to be a happy situation if we're competing with a project when we're building on top of them. And so we'll support them, but like, and we're not going to build this bribe, this vote market anymore. And so at that point, we were kind of lost. We were looking for like, what do we build instead? And so we came up with some ideas, but in the end, what ended up panning out was Cryptic, C2 YPTIC, who is like the kind of head chef of Saber DAO, ended up talking to me and being like, wow, I love this futarchy that you're working on. This is something that's actually really exciting, something that's new happening in crypto, which doesn't happen all that often, because we do have quite a bit of like just X but on Solana, or X but on Base, or new chain. And so he was really excited. He was like, I want to be part of the governance revolution. Like, how can we work together? Um, and so what we ended up coming up with was to build a same vote market only for Saber instead. So just like how on Ethereum, Curve has Votium and Convex and Hidden Hand, we would build a vote market such that VE Saber holders, which, like, if you don't understand what this means, that's okay. But just essentially, Saber token holders to trade their votes for money, and projects would be able to trade their tokens for votes, which is useful for them because they want a direct liquidity to the pools in their tokens. Like, for example, BlazeStake or SoulBlaze wants to direct liquidity to the BSOL pool because they want liquidity in their token. Um, and so that was the third proposal, was to create this Saber vote market, and it ended up passing. Um, and so that's pretty much, like, we're still working on that today. Today it's January 29th, 2024, and we plan to launch that in about a month. So that's exciting. Uh, After we had proposal 3 or proposal 4, where one problem we had with all the prior proposals is liquidity. So people didn't really want to trade in the markets because, like, they didn't want to sell their meta, really, because they were afraid that they would sell their meta now, and then once there was a spot market, it would blow up, and like it would go high, and they would have missed that opportunity cost. And so people didn't really want to trade. And I talked to Robin Hanson, the creator of futarchy, and he laughed at me for not having a meta spot market yet. My reasoning was that, like, we don't want a meta spot market yet because we want to force people to trade through the futarchy markets, but there are some real benefits of a spot market. Like, if you have a spot market, then you can just trade what value the proposal is adding or destroying, as opposed to what meta the token is fundamentally worth. And so that was the fourth proposal, is to raise money, raise $75,000, and to use, I think, 35,000 of those of that to provide liquidity in the native meta token and on like an AMM. And so that's currently ongoing. We currently have a Google form that allows people to submit how much demand they have for the meta token at the specified price. We were planning on raising 75. I mean, we will raise $75,000. I think right now we have about we sent out the form today, and I think we have about $160,000 in demand. And so that'll work, which is great. We'll be able to get that through. And then the last proposal, and this is where the current story ends because we're in present day, we're not in the future, is to move the current model from a central limit order book into an AMM. And this proposal was created by Joe, who created, or who's the creator of, the name is escaping me, but creator of an AMM protocol on Solana that's like a really innovative, uses some innovative mechanics. And he thought it would be a good idea if we migrated from a central limit order book to an AMM to solve the liquidity issue as well. And so that proposal just passed, I think yesterday. And so that is currently ongoing. And that's pretty much, that brings me up to present day. Basically, we've got, I think, about 20 people that are at the core of what we're doing, maybe 10 to 20 people who are at the core and really actively involved. We probably have 100 to 200 people that are eagerly watching from the sidelines, and then maybe like 1,000 or a few thousand people that know what we're building and are at least interested in it. I won't speculate on whether or not they think it's good or bad. And so that's pretty much currently we have about I think $40,000 in funds because there's the 10,000 that I originally put in, and then we also received the first part of the grant to build the Saber vote market, and so, yeah, we've got 10 to 20 people at the core, 100 to 200 people that are interested at the periphery, or like pretty eagerly watching the periphery, like 1,000 people who are interested at the periphery, $40,000 in assets, and yeah, that pretty much brings us up to present day and an ongoing project. That's basically who we are, and the early story.
Okay, great. That's a good 20-minute TDLR on everything that has happened till now. Yeah, I definitely share your sentiment. It's a young idea. Well, not too young, but if you do the parallel with Bitcoin, the work that allowed Bitcoin to exist started a long time before Bitcoin was the first implementation of this work. And it's a bit the same with the futarchy. I think we are the first legit implementation with like a community and a couple of people involved, and it's the beginning of a long journey, hopefully. The other day I was checking Farcaster. They improve a lot, but now they have something like 10K daily active user, but it's after 3 years of laying down strong foundation and slow organic growth and all this. So futarchy is not very intuitive idea, I think, for most people. At least for me, the first time I heard about it, it didn't click right away. Why it was a very good idea. It clicks fast. It's just that it's maybe not the first thing you get into. So I think it's going to be a fun year, and we might stay a bit small for the first few months or even the first years because of that. I mean, I hope I will be surprised by a tremendous growth of people involved with the MetaDAO or other futarchy that spawns, but I truly don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess we'll see. When we launched, I thought like 10 people were going to show up, and then we had like, well, yeah, we had 65 people show up, but like hundreds of people tried to show up. It just happened that they weren't in the Discord prior to the thing. And yeah, I mean, it's been surprising to me the quantity and the quality of the people that we've got excited and working on contributing to the MetaDAO. Like it's pretty awesome. And yeah, I mean, even the cool thing that like helps me sleep at night, and that you don't have with a lot of stuff like new projects is like if you work on a startup, I don't know, you build a note taking app, and then it fails. I mean, I guess you've learned some things, but like fundamentally, that's just a drop in the bucket. It doesn't it doesn't it's not very meaningful. Whereas if we fail, we'll fail as the first market-driven organization in the history of human civilization, which is a pretty cool way to go out. So they definitely can't fault us for lack of ambition.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think we should wrap it up now? We're still under half an hour, so 25 minutes. If people speed it up, we
Yeah,
can get all this
I,
shot of information in 12 minutes if they are brave. Um, there
yeah,
is
I
so
think
much stuff we could talk about, but then would make it really long, and maybe it would be a detriment to the cause of this call.
sure. Yeah, makes sense.
Okay, great. Well, then thanks a lot for doing that. Again, we do that before the playlist of community calls, so people that jump today, they have an opportunity to understand what happened prior. And we'll try to do, I'm pushing for this, but we'll see if people want to do it, but a monthly community call where we update the current proposals and the things that are in discussion and a little bit of brainstorming, and it's the opportunity for the community to, the community, the the strong organic core of like 10-20 people that show up to exchange ideas and bond together. And I think recording it is great because when you push it on the internet, sometimes it reaches somebody that would have not been able to reach otherwise, and maybe that person joined the Discord and become the another one of the contributors. So yeah, so we are at 26 minutes. Thanks a lot for explaining all that, and see you another time for more guitar-key things.
Yeah, thanks for organizing.
See you. Bye.
Yeah.